Okay, this is where I get to say OMG. Oh my gosh. We have Ken Block. Oh, one of my favorite bands when I was growing up. And not growing up, I was pretty much grown up by then. But Sister Hazel. Had the opportunity to see them just recently in concert, and Ken Block is here. And we're fastening your seatbelts because we're going to learn and grow together. And normally, Ken, there's music playing, my theme song, which is all about being a friend, and we normally dance together. But because we're pre-recording this, you get to miss that. Isn't that awful?
That's okay. It's all good. I have music in my head all the time, like a
Me too.
bouncing around.
I got cartoons playing.
Yeah, that's good. That's great.
Okay, here we go. Hello, my listening friends. So nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful best day ever. And for those of you who have been listening to the show for the last years, or maybe you stumbled upon it just recently, welcome back. But if you're new to the Lillian McDermott radio show, I've been waiting for you. And this is where we go to when you need a friend. This is a place where we can be honest and feel safe. And it is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal. And it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now today, I'm just like a little girl. I'm going back to my youth or 20 years back to my youth, because we get to spend some time with Ken Block. I had the privilege of being invited to a concert that Sister Hazel was featured on. And of course, I played the tambourine. I don't know if Ken will remember this, but I played the tambourine for a little bit there. I think they were a little concerned that maybe I wasn't keeping the beat right. But I play a mean tambourine. I am very proud of that.
You did fine.
And so we went to the Hearts of Gold, and I got to be reconnected with the beautiful Sister Hazel group. And we're going to talk about, they've been together for over 20 years. And we want to talk about, with Ken, how they have been able to thrive through their relationship, go through the music and all the things that they've gone through over these last 20 years and continue to make a difference. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Ken Block is here to do just that. Welcome, Ken, to the Lillian McDermott radio show.
Thanks, Lily. I really appreciate it. We are grateful to be here as well.
Thank you. So share a little bit about your background and what led you to, I guess, to the group, the local missionary group that Sister Hazel Williams. How did that all come about? Share a little bit about your background and how that all came about.
Well, I grew up actually not far from where you are. I think are you in Brevard County?
I'm in Cape Canaveral, yes.
Yeah, how about that? All right, well, we're in, I love to surf down there, by the way.
Well, next time you're here, please look me up.
All right. Well, I grew up in Gainesville, Florida, home of the University of Florida. I'll give a little chomp for Go Gators. And,
I'm wearing the collars.
Yeah, you got blue. You got the blue.
That's right. Blue.
So growing up in Gainesville, I'm knocking on 50 here. So when I was a kid, they only had 13 channels in the U. Remember that, UHF? And this lady, Sister Hazel Williams, would run these commercials about Sister Hazel's rescue mission. Mm-hmm. And it was, they were helping out this or that or doing this and primarily working with the homeless. And I remember looking at my mom and going, is that lady helping out people she doesn't really even know? And my mom was like, yeah. And I thought, that was my first notion about service work, about getting outside of yourself to do things for other people. You know what I mean? And so that stuck with me. We volunteered there quite a few times growing up or donated things. And, flash forward quite a few years, we were starting the band. And we were looking for a name that represented unconditional regard for everybody.
Wow.
And that name kind of popped in my head. And as, what her reputation was as a leader here in Alachua County was, it didn't matter your age, education, race, orientation, religious background, financial background, anything, education, I might have already said that. If you were down on your luck and you needed a safe place to regroup and get back on your feet, dust off, she was there. She was there for you. And so I think the funny part of that story is that we picked the name, and I couldn't find her. She wasn't around, and I was like, man, I hadn't seen her in a long time. And one morning after we had a release party for our first little record that we made up here, and I had a couple cocktails, I'll admit, the night before. And so it was early in the morning, and my roommate goes, hey, you got to get the phone. The phone was like 7 in the morning, 6:30 and 7. And I'm like, man, please take a message. He's like, I think you want to take it. It's Sister Hazel. So I get on the phone, and there's Sister Hazel, and she's like, I'm like, hey, I tried to find you. And she had been in Haiti and Belize running missions. And she said, honey, I got back to Gainesville, and my name is up on, every club, pub, coffee house, and theater in town. And I want to know what you guys are all about. And I said, how can we do that? She goes, well, let's meet. I go, where? And she said, Shoney's on 13th Street. So we met at a Shoney's, sat down and talked. And she said, look, if you're not preaching hate and you're following what you believe in, I don't have any problem with this. Now, over the years, we donated money to her almost every month from different things that we did. She passed away 2 summers ago at 90 years old, I think. And I spoke at her funeral, her 4-hour funeral, which shows you how loved she was.
Wow.
And it was a remarkable legacy that she had. And, listen, with a bunch of guys that have a band named Sister Hazel, it's like sometimes people who don't know us are like, where's Hazel? Or, are you a gospel band or a heavy metal band? And so, but the name's got a great story that means something.
I love it. I love it. And we are giving away one of the CDs that that they're creating. It's an EP, I guess. It's Wind, and we're going to continue our conversation. There's Wind and Water, but we're going to give away Wind, right?
Yeah.
We're going to give away Wind.
Give away Wind. You think
we're going to give away Wind. And we're going to continue our conversation with Ken when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Ken, what a great story.
All right.
Yes, I remember when we posed with you at the, I turned around and you guys had shared that this was like your 20th, year together.
25 years that we've been together.
Yeah, and I'd love to know how you guys met. Sure. We're off the air now, so if you can share a little bit about how you guys met, and I do want to talk about this friendship and how you've been able to maintain communication when we come back on the air. So share a little bit about how you guys all met.
When we come back, or you want me to give that to you?
Now how you met, and then when we come back, how you've been able to maintain.
All right, guys. So I had been in bands growing up since I was 12 years old, playing around Gainesville.
No way.
And one day I was at a tailgate party for a Tennessee-Florida football game. And Andrew Copeland was a guy that was at that party at a mutual friend's house. Mm-hmm. And, it's a tailgate party, so everyone was having a good time. And I was playing Peaceful Easy Feeling by the Eagles. Mm-hmm. And he came over and started singing harmonies with me. And we were like, man, this is kind of works. And, of course, we were all, tailgate party. Everyone was wide open. You guys are great, man. You guys are great. So I had these gigs, and he started coming out and singing with me, and we started doing that. And a couple years into that is when I decided I had a bunch of original songs I wanted to take to the level, and said I wanted to create this band, Sister Hazel. And so I put up flyers that had words like, authentic, creative, passionate, fun, high energy, all this stuff on the flyer. And I said, look, and it was right at the end of the grunge era, kind of, Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I had been in heavy bands. I've done some of that, but I don't mind feeling all of that stuff. I like it all. And so, but I was ready to have something that was a little bit more optimistic. And Jet Barris, the bass player, was the first guy to answer that flyer. And he came in, and then we got introduced to Mark through a fellow drummer. And then Ryan Newell, our lead guitar player, was a guy that I had watched play in local bands for years and just loved him and was like, one day we're going to play together. And
wow. Talk about manifestation, huh?
Absolutely.
It started with that flyer because you created, we create everything, and people don't understand that. And people look at the bad things that we create and go, well, how did I create that? Somebody else did it to me. But there's a benefit and there's a beauty in everything that happens to us. And how impactful it was for you to meet Sister Hazel and that seed be planted, and that's what you wanted to represent.
That's exactly right. I wanted there to be a story behind the name that meant something more than, we were out one night and put a bunch of words on the wall and threw darts. I wanted there to be a story that was sort of central to who we were as a band.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So when we come back, because we're about to get started, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your new, do you call it an album? Because I basically.
What this is a series of 4 EPs.
Okay.
And they're called Elements. And the first one.
First was water.
Second one's wind.
Wind.
And go through the elements as we kind of go.
Okay. This is great. This is great stuff. And we're giving only wind?
Yeah, I think wind. And
okay.
If you send you anything else, we can do that too.
Okay, very good. Well, maybe we can have you back. We'll do the whole element series.
There you go. Sure.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn and grow together. Today's teacher is Ken Block. He is the lead vocalist, one of the leads, because there's other people that they all take turns. They all take turns. They're so generous with one another, and they highlight one another. But the band is called Sister Hazel. Do you remember the band Sister Hazel? Well, if you don't, it's time for you. If you want to be the 10th caller or texter, you will get their latest EP. And this is so new for me because I still remember the vinyls and I still remember the CDs, but this is an EP. It's an extended there. Share a little bit, Ken, about what you're doing. Let me give the number first, 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959. Be the 10th caller or texter and win the new release of Wind. Okay, so share a little bit about that mentality of what you're doing.
As technology changes, culture changes, the way people digest music and audio and all sorts of different things has changed. Mm-hmm. And we look back at our career and we go, we were always kind of on the leading edge of how those things unfolded. And, at first it was message boards and then street team stuff. And we were always one of the first bands doing some of those things, hosting these big events like the Rock Boat, Hazelnut, things for community. Mm-hmm. Well, now, album sales overall are kind of down. And I think a lot of that's because the accessibility of the single and quicker music and they want stuff, right?
Yeah. And
make an album, usually people, they'll write, they'll go in the studio, they'll write this big record, then they tour on it, and it can be 2 or 3 years between records. Well, we didn't want to do that anymore. And so we decided our goal is to release more music more frequently over the shorter period of time. So we created this idea for this EP series called Elements. Mm-hmm. First one, water, second one, wind. We'll go through the elements. And so every 6 months, we'll have a new 7-song CD out, which is, we're calling an EP, but they're basically CDs, 7 songs. And so there's always new music. It keeps us excited about writing and recording, because we'll go right from the road, right in the studio, record songs, keep things moving. And I also think that people can digest it a little bit better, as much as I always loved making, 14-song CDs or something. We always like to take people on a journey with that. You think about song sequence and all that. So now we're just doing that on a quicker interval where we're kind of tightening it up a little bit, trying to take people on a ride, and they don't have to wait, 2-3 years between records. We can just keep things pumping out.
I love how you talk about, Ken, that your music is a journey, because you've heard the quote, "You had me at hello." Well, you had me at all for you. The song "All for You."
I got a lot of people with that one.
I used to harmonize with you every time, and I've got to play the tambourine, so I was really excited about that. But maybe next time I'm in Gainesville, I can bring my tambourine.
That'd be perfect.
But I can be the addition to your group. But here's the thing. We all are on a yellow brick road. We all have a journey. And so what I wanted to do, because you guys are so well known, Sister Hazel, the band, and by the way, we're giving away an EP. It's called Wind, 407-373-5959, 10th caller or texter. So with that in mind, I wanted to come up with 5 Ds. Mm-hmm. The first one is your dream. You had a dream, and you shared a little bit of that, by the way. If you want to go to the YouTube video afterwards, you'll see conversations that we don't have on the air. So let's talk about your dream. You had a vision, but that vision, you talked about how you guys met, But how have you been able to keep this dream together? Because when we are on that yellow brick road, everybody has a different path. So how have you been able to keep this dream alive together?
That's a great question, first of all.
Thank
And
you.
I think it's one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life, being or beyond my family first, my wife and kids first. And that ties into it a little bit because as a band, we all know that family comes first. And if that's not working, nothing's working.
Okay.
So if any of us ever need, hey, I can't do that. I've got to be here or this is on my thing. We don't even question it anymore. We know that it's gone through the filter of how can I balance everything, and family comes first. So what I'll say is we've actually been together almost 25 years now. And
that's more than most marriages can.
No doubt about that. And it's very much like a marriage in the sense that we are a 5-man, and now we have another guy, Dave LeGrand, six guy playing with us for the last 5 or 6 years. We're a democracy. We all have say in everything. And at first, that was challenging a little bit because, especially as songwriters, or you hold on to something so preciously, and I have the vision and I know what it's going to be like. And so trust has to develop over time where you let people in and I might have fought really hard for this thing and it didn't work out my way and I was mad about it. And then I look back 6 months later and go, oh man, I'm really glad I let Ryan's guitar part happen through there because he was right. Yeah. And you have to learn to trust those people. Now, we went from a van and trailer touring 250 to 300 days a year to platinum record and
wow.
airplanes and turbines as a bunch of college kids, really, and so there was a lot of partying going on at that time, and that could get things jumbled up a little bit too. And we were all in our space, who stands where in pictures and who speaks to that interview and who controls the set list, all this stuff. And what I'll say is and it got really challenging for a while, especially Drew and I, who have the strongest sort of personalities and stuff like that stuff. And it got really challenging. And in 2003, I actually got into recovery. I was when you're intervened by your fellow bandmates and your family and your manager, it's time to take a look at things. And I think everyone at that time had to step back and say, how is all this playing a role in the way are we being who we want to be? Are we communicating the way we want to communicate? Are we representing ourselves with our best foot forward? And so everyone had to take a look at things. And I think it really was a reset button for us. And what we learned over the next couple of years was that we were all in it together. And that even though we had maybe some different ideas about how to get where we were going, we all knew we wanted to get there.
You all had the same goal.
We all had the same goal for the most part. And I like to say this now about there's a sort of as we know, a heated political climate going on in here. Yeah. We don't really talk politics a lot specifically, but that's because we know not to do it specifically. Mm-hmm. And we have very different views between a couple of us in the organization. But what I will tell you is, what it has taught me is that even though we sit on these different sides of these issues and some of these things, we've made a business, a creative entity, a charitable organization, and lived together and made it work for 25 years, and we love each other.
I love that.
Because we have the basic moral foundation together. We're different guys in a lot of ways, but there's this overlap, and we choose to focus on the overlap and the respecting the differences a little bit. And so we pick our battles. We don't worry about, speaking of tambourine, that's a great example. I remember an argument we had where, are we going to have the tambourine going in the pre-chorus and the chorus, or just the chorus? And it was this big thing. And I'm like,
next time call me and I'll settle it.
You come in and do it. And so now I look at that and I go, that would last about 30 seconds now. And whoever was most passionate about it or felt strongly, we defer. And what we've learned with songs is, we all have say in things, but if you brought the song in, you have a little bit more weight in the direction of what that goes. And so we've really learned how to do that. And with set lists, we just alternate every night now. And the set stays fresh because we alternate your night, your night, your night, your night.
Wow.
If it's a big show and we have, someone has a bunch of guests there or something, they'll go, hey, do you mind if we add this song? And we make it work and we talk things through. If stuff gets rough or there's tension, it doesn't last long anymore. It doesn't, of course it'll happen once in a while. Mm-hmm. It lasts an hour or 10 minutes, not 2 months, where resentments are just fester. And I'm really proud of that. And one last thing I want to say about that, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving this.
In 25 years, everybody in not just our band, but we have an extended crew that we're very close with and management that we're close with. Everybody's been back on their heels at one point in time or another. They've gone through a challenging trial. And what that did was give everybody an opportunity to be a brother, to be a support, and to show that we're really in this together and that we want the best for each other, no matter what. And so it levels the playing field, once everyone goes through that, and actually not only needs to lean on people, but allows people to be there for them, allows us to be there.
Vulnerability. Yeah. You're talking about vulnerability.
It's a very difficult thing sometimes, especially for a bunch of guys sometimes. And we're able to do that with each other. And that's pretty amazing thing.
I agree. As a matter of fact, that was when I handed the card, I don't remember who I handed my card to, but I said, I'd love for you to be in our show. I do a show on responsibility. He goes, well, you're looking at the wrong people. And I said, no, I'm looking at the right people. Over 20 years together, you guys have made it work. The same people. You've added one person, but you're the same people. Actually, you're not the same people. No. You've all grown together, which is the purpose of the show, is to grow together. We're not the person we were yesterday, but I am, and I'm a different person today, but I'll be different tomorrow as well. And that's what growth is all about. You guys have mastered that. It's great. And I think we've gone into the second D. The first one was dream. The second is determination. Yeah. Now, when I talk about determination, I talk about willpower and purpose. And for your group to come together and do an intervention in 2003, and I was listening to the song, You Won't See Me Again. And I just burst into tears. I thought that was just such a beautiful song. Did that song come from that intervention?
That song actually came from, recovery has been a piece of our puzzle for a while now because of me being sober for so long and, working on that with other people and some of that stuff. But Drew, who's the other main singer guy and, my comrade for many, many years, his brother-in-law literally drank himself to death from alcoholism. And it was really challenging for Andrew because they were really close. And we all knew Chuck. We knew him very well. And we knew his kids and we knew his wife, we knew, and it was so difficult to watch. And so Drew wrote that song knowing that it would resonate with me. And when he brought it in, everybody went, we got to do that song. And so that same year, my brother-in-law died from that disease. And I was going through a challenging physical issue that was going on. And so I really had to get, it was a squirrely year for me, a couple years, this last year. And so it was so important that we put that out there and said, this is something we need to have discussions about. This is something we need to talk about. And it was very healing, I think, for us to be able to put that out and to show people. And what Drew did in that song. And
hold that thought. Let's continue this conversation off the air. We're going to continue our conversation with Ken Block of Sister Hazel. Be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, and get a copy of Wind. And we're going to continue our conversation when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Sorry, Ken, I did not want to interrupt you.
Good.
This is great. This is great because when I heard that song, I knew someone was in pain and the redemption.
That's the part that the twist at the end.
The redemption.
that is what I always tell people about our songs that I love, that I'm proud of. And that is that we write about tough stuff sometimes. We write about, it's always easier, believe it or not, to write when you're going through a challenge or when I'm happy, I don't necessarily feel like writing. I don't, you know what I mean? It's not easy. And it's also not easy to write like a happy song that's not super cheesy. But what I like to do is write about something that's challenging. And Drew did this beautifully on that song.
Yeah.
But then dust a little optimism on it, because you're acknowledging these issues and this pain and this stuff. But do we want to stay there?
Mm-mm.
Do we want to stay in that? Or do we want to say, all right, let's move through this, and there is hope, because hope's a powerful thing.
It is. And, as I was listening to that, and I want to encourage everybody who's listening, if you go to sisterhazel.com, you can listen to some of the music that they have, their current music. And if you go to YouTube, or if you buy their album, the song that I'm just referring to is You Won't See Me Again. And it was very inspirational. I thought that, there comes times, especially with musicians.
Oh yeah.
Because I do a little bit of singing, but I'm not trying to get you to
take my job.
Huh?
You're not trying to take my job?
Not trying to take your job. I got the mic. I got it now in a different way.
Right.
But I will say that if you ever need a tambourine player, I'm your girl. But okay. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion. Again, I pour myself in my journals. I pour myself, not necessarily when things are good, I'm just all grateful. But being grateful for the bad times, for the times that we perceive as bad, like that moment that with the intervention, you probably thought, F you, I'm not going to listen to this. I don't need you. And you could walk away from that and stay stuck.
Absolutely. Stay angry and look at it as a punishment, which is, I had one foot in both camps of that. I had one foot in, I can't believe you idiots are calling me out on,
Yeah.
Because everyone had, it's easy to do that. Go,
yeah. It's that three fingers, right?
Right. And everyone's pointing back at me. But I also knew in my heart of hearts that something had to change, that I certainly wasn't happy. And, keep doing what you always done, keep getting what you always got, kind of thing. And so the switch for me, because I did go to treatment.
Yeah.
I went away to treatment for about a month, and then after care treatment for a while. But anyway, all of a sudden I looked at it like a gift instead of a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it like, all right, look, I'm getting plucked out of my life, which clearly I'm not managing very well. Everyone's excited that I'm actually doing something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it like college for life, and it was teaching me things. I was like, okay, everyone's cool. They want me to be here. You know what I mean? Instead of out there continuing
hurting yourself,
and hurting others, and doing all that.
Yeah.
And so, as soon as I quit looking at it, and then of course I saw a lot of guys in there that, they look at it as a punishment, and I get it. I get that sentiment. But that doesn't work. It doesn't help anything. And so I said, well, look, obviously my best thinking landed me right here. So why don't if your life's unmanageable, then you need to fire the manager. And I was the manager and said, let's let some people help me navigate things in some different ways, or think about things in some different ways. And my wife, I got to tell you, was very central to all of that. I came kicking and screaming a little bit to, she calls it fruity thinking. All the things I do now, as far as like, things you do to take care of yourself, or meditation or things like that. And I wrote about meditation in this song called Elves. Like, you can take the book on meditation like it was bad, and now I'm like, oh, I'm the guy now who's doing that,
You're doing a song called Om.
Exactly. It's just, you have to look at those opportunities as a chance. Now, I will tell you, because we're being honest about all this, that I have had a couple issues this last year that really pushed my limits on having to trust that there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
And I'm beginning to see a little light with some of that. And so I'm like, oh, okay, now I can see. And you know what I mean? So stay the course and work the process with people and ideas that have your best interest at heart.
Well, that's the D for determination, and by you saying yes, and I'm a certified life coach, and I do a lot of work on self-improvement, growth, talk about mind, body, spirit, food, as well as thought. It's all interconnected. It's all interconnected, and the reason why you go through things is so that you can later on, if you go to whenyouneedafriend.com and you look at the 4 questions of responsibility, that's how you find that beauty. I just saw the movie Collateral Beauty. We talk about collateral damage, but the collateral beauty is seeing beauty in even the toughest, and knowing that this too, just like good times or bad times, they all pass. Right. Think about your awards that you've received, your achievements that you've received. You think, oh my God, I'll always feel this high, this always is good. But then it goes away. Something else becomes more important, or something else becomes your next goal. And the same thing, when something horrible happens to us, oh, I can't believe this is happening to me right now. I don't know how I'm going to take another step. And that passes away too.
Well, I'll tell you, do you have time for a story?
Is this something you want to do on the air, or you want to do it off the air?
Happy to do it on the air.
You want to do it on the air? Okay. So whoop, I just dropped my microphone. You got me all excited here. Okay. So what we're going to
go ahead. Tell me.
You want to turn off the chimes, because when we go on the air, I want to make sure that the chimes are off. Can you do that?
Yeah.
There we go.
I think I can.
Yeah, I know you can. If you think you can, you will.
Yes. Let's see.
Is that what you call fruity thinking?
Fruity, yes. That's my wife.
I love it. Okay, here we go. So we're about to get started. Yeah. And let me get my little thing. Gosh, you guys I was looking at all the albums that you guys have done. Amazing. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn and grow with one another. Today's teacher is Ken Block of the group Sister Hazel. If you haven't heard them in a while, you guys need to go to sisterhazel.com. We're giving away for the 10th caller or texter one of their latest EP. They're doing the elements. They've done water already. Now they're doing wind, and we're giving away wind. So the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. I didn't say passing out wind. We're giving away wind. I'm so grateful for that. Much better, because it sounded different in my head when I said it. Choice, right? Yes, this is a platinum seller, Sister Hazel in the house, and we're talking about how they're making a difference, the 5 Ds, which is what we talk about on the Lillian McDermott radio show, which is taking responsibility. I don't want to go into a lot of stuff, because off the air, Ken has been telling us about his sobriety and stories. He's going to share a story on the air pretty soon, but I just want to quickly ask you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, and while you're there, become a subscriber. Also subscribe to YouTube, because when we do the show, it gets sent to you, to your tablet, to your phone. You get to listen to the on and off the air conversations. But I want to encourage you, while you're there, to follow me on my social media. So click all the buttons that is at whenyouneedafriend.com, and go to my sponsorships page, because without my sponsors, I could not do this show. So please support our sponsors the way they're supporting the show, so that you get this free for you to listen to at any time that you want. Of course, follow me on all the podcasts that we're on, and you can always call or text, be the 10th caller or texter, to get the EP called Wind. 407-373-5959. So now Ken Block is going to share a story. Share the story you were going to say, or continue your conversation.
We talked about how sometimes when things are very difficult or tragic or challenging in your life, that it's just hard to see how there's any reason for it or positives that can come out of it. And I've got an enormous one of those, and that is that when I was 16 years old, my little brother was 14 years old. He was diagnosed with cancer. And he was my best friend, period. I mean, he and I were inseparable buddies. And so for 4.5 years, he passed away at 18. And so through our teenage years, we're dealing with, you're chasing girls and you want to go surfing and you're playing music and you're balancing school and family. And we're having to add to that chemotherapy, radiation treatments, what it does to your body, and then, of course, mortality. And then, of course, faith and the challenges up against that as you're dealing with all of that. So I didn't come through that unscathed. I mean, that you come out of there with your own version of PTSD kind of thing and perspective. And I think that a lot of the things that ramped up with things that led me to recovery down the road had to do with that and doing that. But what I will tell you is a couple things I learned through that. One is that we met incredible people that we still are in touch with. That I drove by the medical center here 1,000 times, and I didn't know what went on in there every day. It was a big building but now I know about the enormous lows that people go through and the enormous highs, the triumph over things, the connection, the energy that people have giving of self. It's just an incredible thing. But I held on for a long time to the notion that if I wasn't sad anymore or angry or frustrated, that somehow it was saying that I didn't love him anymore. And the message that I didn't like if I were to put that down, it was taking
kind of selfish.
That was kind of a tribute in some.
Yeah.
Now I knew him well enough to know he'd go, "You are a ridiculous fool. Put it down. Go have fun. I don't want you to. I don't want your life to be crushed forever by this." But I couldn't go from here to here. That may as well have been
survivors. It's survivor's guilt.
That's survivor's guilt and pain and loss and all of that and and frustration and not knowing where to put your anger and not knowing where to put your trust, because how could God do this and all of that, But eventually I came to learn that's not the way that works, that you can put that down, that you can put that down. It is not a memorial and it is not a tribute. And it's almost like a resentment, which it was in some ways, where it was killing me by continuing that on. And so I think getting into recovery helped me process a lot of that and learn how to handle life on life's terms and rebuild a relationship with my higher power and begin to build the building blocks of trust. And but simultaneously, what are you going to do? My mom always said, "What are you going to do now?" And we created Lyrics for Life, which is our big cancer charity.
Yeah.
And we've raised now over $2 million.
That's wonderful.
Not just for research for kids, because that's the important magic bullet, but for programs that support the families and the kids as they navigate this. We have a show here in Gainesville coming up on September 14th where we're bringing in Javier Colon, winner of The Voice, and Matt Scannell from Vertical Horizon. And we're doing a Tom Petty tribute set. And but we get these Lyrics for Life comes from, we get these signed lyrics from artists all over the world. My idea was, my aha moment was, let's reach out to artists and say, "Hey, write down these lyrics to anything you want, on anything you want, and we'll make it look cool." And so people will send in stuff like on pizza boxes or boxer shorts or notebook paper or a barf bag from a Delta airline flight. Then we've got lyrics from, this year I think we've got James Taylor, we've got Paul.
Wow.
Paul McCartney sent a sign.
We need to have you back to talk about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But anyway, we've got, Paul McCartney just sent a box set that he did lyrics on. It's just amazing. And so it's, what are you going to do next? How do you channel that energy for positive things? And so one of the things that it also raises money for now is that we started a camp. We go to Camp Crystal, which is just outside of Gainesville, where I grew up with my brother going to camp. We take it over for a whole weekend, bring in counselors with us, and we scholarship in kids and families from all over the state to have a weekend where they get to escape, bonfires, campfire songs, songwriting, water sports, archery, ropes courses where these kids get to, climb these giant towers. We're all strapped in and overcome this stuff. And it's so gratifying to say, look, I may not be able to win the war on all this, but my dad said, look, if you're not winning the war, win today, and make today the best it can be. And so that weekend, I think we make it the best it can be for people that are going through something that I thoroughly understand. If we can give them that escape and that sense of community, then it's pretty gratifying.
Well, thank you, Ken, for sharing that story. Look at the power that your brother had. You were using that power, that influence that he had in your life to make you small. But once you embraced the purpose he was here, look at how much greatness you've been able to create. And that was my 50, which is making a difference, the difference. So let's go back. And I want to keep with this theme with the 5 Ds, because now we've already covered difference and making a difference. The drive, the energy, the initiative is part of this collaboration that you do. How do you, and I know we're getting close to the end, and disappointment. So the 5 Ds are dream, determination, drive, disappointments, and those setbacks. I mean, you've covered them all. I don't even have to ask you. You're like reading my notes here. And of course, the difference that you've been making. And so with all of that and all these years, being able to still have the same people that you started with, what an incredible life. What an incredible message.
They're great guys. And we really do respect the mothership. We call it the mothership, you got family and everything else. And we all have things that we like to do or that we're plugged into, but we know that Sister Hazel and the goals that we set for ourselves within that is the mothership, and that all of us are on the same page trying to get it where it needs to go. And some days, maybe a couple of us have to lean forward a little bit harder, and other days, other guys are going to take that slack up. But the mothership is what we use to keep us grounded and centered.
Well, you've used gratitude to be the thread that sews you together, because, as I listen to your stories, and that's just your story, I'm sure the other players as well, you have Jeff and Andrew and Ryan and Mark, and you said you have a new one too.
Yeah, Dave LeGrand, and we brought him in a few years ago because we were implementing more keyboard stuff and piano stuff, and he just came in. We brought him in temporarily, and he was phenomenal, and he also plays saxophone. Oh. And musically is just a really clever guy and a great guy, fit right in. And we were like, we hope you stick around. And so,
Sister Hazel, the band of brothers, I'm telling you, this is such an incredible, I remember them saying, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Well, listen, we got more to talk about, because we're going to continue our conversation. We're also giving Sister Hazel, they're platinum. They've got, they're just a wonderful group. We're giving away to the 10th caller or texter their EP called Wind, and it would be the 10th caller texter, 407-373-5959. And we're going to continue our conversation with Ken when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. That was amazing. I love the story. I haven't shared this with you. Maybe I'll talk to you about this off the air. I don't know what your schedule looks like after the show, but I started a foundation, but I have a totally different twist as a result of all the teachers that I've had on my show. The foundation, we've had our issues with cancer and my husband's family. And because of life and the way things are, people come into your life to be a teacher, to be a student, and we shift back and forth. So the teachers that have been in my show have taught me. I remember my first encounter with, I don't know if you're embrace chemotherapy, but I am more holistic. And I had a doctor this was after my husband's second brother. Well, it was a family member that had ascended from the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation.
Of course.
They were cancer-free. But anyway, because of that series that happened, I had a teacher, Dr. James Forsyth, on the show who is a holistic oncologist.
Mm-hmm.
So he's an MD, HOM, or I don't know the acronym for that. And when he told me that he was doing a study, and it's at that time it had been 5 years, a 5-year study. Now it's like 7. And he only does stage 4 cancers.
Mm-hmm.
And his success rate is 70% holistic. And I don't know. And when he was telling me that, I'm like, what? How many are there? Stage 1? What? And I mean, it didn't register. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I need to find out more. So I know that realization that people are in front of you to become either your teachers or your students, and your brother, and the purpose for your brother's life, and that D, which was the determination, was for him to teach you that you can take beauty in even death. And what a great lesson that you've learned. So
I love that your message of body, mind, and spirit, and holistic approach to things. And I am a believer that our thoughts matter.
Yeah.
I am a believer that our food is medicine. And
it is.
And honestly, that's one of my biggest challenges, because I wrestle with food stuff all the time, especially traveling, and you know what I mean, and schedule and stuff like that. I'm slow to always embrace some of the things I know to be true. Does that make sense?
But when you embrace it, you go.
And I embrace it. I get it. When it clicks, even though
it's got to be your truth. It can't be, I was just sharing about this on the show just recently, that I've been, because of the teachers, I've changed my whole life. I'm older than you. And when I turned 50, I said, I want the next 50 years to be better than my first. That was my goal.
Great.
But I didn't realize it. I didn't realize all these people would come in front of me. And so I've changed the way I eat. I've changed the way I think. I've become a life coach. All these things. But my husband is just now beginning to look at a whole food plant-based, although he'll eat what I make. So it's taken him, and now
I'm him.
Yeah. But you know what?
My wife is always a step ahead of me. And I always come kind of, all right.
Yeah, I'll do it because you're doing it, but that's not your truth.
No,
and now
I heard Esther Hicks say, I think it was Esther or Jerry Hicks say, like, look, you can't go from, like, if the merry-go-round's spinning in front of you, you can't just jump on. No. It'll fling you off.
That's right.
You've got to start to build up steam to be going, you know what I mean? So incremental steps to bite off what you can believe at first.
That's right. And I say that on the show, and we're getting ready to get started again. It's like our 4th segment. I can't believe it. But I always say that on the show. There was a time where people thought the earth was flat.
Yeah.
Until they learned a new
people that believe that.
Exactly. So there are people that said, this is a new truth. It took 1,000 years for that truth to the earth was flat. But then it took a while for that to happen. But then there were people that said, no, I'm going to keep the flat earth. And you know what? Their argument about the flat earth is very compelling.
Of course.
So everybody can. So I say this on the show all the time, Ken. This is my truth. This is what I've learned. Please research it. Go to pubmed.gov, because I want science. I don't want opinion.
I agree. I think that the idea of science is important, and I believe in science, but I don't believe it explains everything yet.
No.
You have to be open. It's like a dog can hear things I can't hear.
I know.
And if someone said that there's a note going through the air, I'm like, no, there's not. I don't hear it. The dog can hear it. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Well, we're getting ready for our next segment, and gosh, well, what are we going to talk about? It's like this. How can we top what we've talked about already? So here we go.
All right.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where I am so excited to be able to speak with Ken Block. He is part of the Platinum Group. You just name it. They've been around for 25 years. Sister Hazel. And I just had the privilege of listening to them at the Homeless Coalition, the Coalition for the Homeless, Hearts for Gold. This was this last year. And I was just reconnected with my 20-year-old self, with my, wanting to just be in the front row, not leave there and listen to all their songs. Ken, thank you so much for taking the time, because I know you're very busy.
Of course. I'm happy to be here. And it's funny because people sometimes will go like, do you ever get tired of playing, All For You or Happy or Champagne High? And I'm like, no, because it's such a gift to have something that lights up people. Look, am I really getting off on it musically as it happens? Not necessarily. I'm enjoying watching people light up.
Yeah.
What a gift that's been to have something like that can energize people like that and make them smile. And it really allowed people to scratch the surface and find out more about what Sister Hazel was all about.
Well, Sister Hazel is about a lot. And for those of you who would like their latest EP, it's part of their series called The Elements. And so you need to go out and get yourself some water. And today we're giving away some wind. And be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959. I can just see all the phones blurring up because it's going back to that music. And it brings me back to when we went Christmas caroling for an Alzheimer's group. It was a shut down facility, and I organize that every year. And so we went to this, and we razzle dazzled them with Silent Night. And I asked for, we just finished doing Silent Night, and I asked if they had any requests, and about 3 or 4 requests came up, and they said, can you play Silent Night? We had just finished playing Silent Night, but we played it again 4 times. Nice. One of the things that I will tell you is that music connects us.
Oh, yeah.
Even when you think the person's not there. So I can see how you are just absolutely thrilled to see other people light up too. So well done.
I appreciate that. And think about, I'll throw in records, or I'll hear a record that I grew up listening to that I hadn't listened to in 20, 30 years. And I remember every beat, every mistake, every little thing. It's incredible how that gets into our hardwiring.
Oh, and so let's talk about this concept of enduring 25 years. You had, throughout the time, we talked about the 5 Ds. I think we covered it without having to talk individually, which is dream, determination, drive, which you continue. I think that maybe we can talk about that drive, which you already shared about seeing people get so light up. Disappointment. We talked about disappointment in the stories that you shared, especially off the air with sobriety. I want to encourage everyone to go to the YouTube video of this show as well. And difference, making a difference. So let's talk about how you've been able to keep this drive going after 25 years. Don't you just get tired of the same old? How do you keep it, and how do you mix it up? What are the tips?
All right. Well, what I would say is that everybody can get in a rut. You can get in a rut. But what has worked really well for us is that, like I said, if sometimes a couple guys are leaning backwards, other guys will go, okay, I need to lean forward now. And so we pull each other along a little bit, and we set goals. We're like, okay, we have touring goals for this year. Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? I don't think you can ever know. You can't get somewhere if you don't even know where you're going, right? You're just kind of wandering aimlessly. So, we set goals for touring. We set goals for music and timelines. And we have to have, we have to put deadlines on ourselves sometimes. You can't always wait for the creative music to tap you on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm like going to the gym. People go, do you like to write? I'm like, not always, but I always love having written. You know what I mean? It's like going to the gym. You like going to the gym? Not always, but after I leave, I'm happy I went. And I like that sometimes with songwriting or touring. So we set these goals, and we try to stay in gratitude as much as we can. I mean, it's really easy to get caught up in, well, look at that. For artists, it would be, look at that artist, and why aren't we quite at that level? Or why didn't this work out for us? And then other artists will look at us and go, gosh, man, we wish we had their career and they did that. These different things. So what we try to do is make sure that we leave a mark every year in different things. So We
Well,
try to make.
let's talk about that, Mark, because
Okay.
you guys have done. You just finished talking about your 501c3, which
Yeah.
is the Lyrics for Life.
Mhm.
What else are you involved in that you would like to, that it brings you joy, that it
Okay.
keeps your group um, together, because that's giving is when you receive the most.
For sure. So we try before we even got our first big record deal. We're going to control what we want, what we can control. Write good songs, put on songs that you're proud of, put on shows that you think are high energy and the people go, that was time and money well spent.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of those fans that come out and support you, and do not ever take them for granted. And that will lead me to some of these other things that we've done.
Yes.
19 years ago, we started an event called the Rock Boat. And you hear about these music experiences or cruises or different things now, but we pioneered that with our manager, Andy Levine,
Mm-hmm.
19 years ago. And it was basically to say, we want to build a community of like-minded people. And we want it to become so big that it takes on a life of its own. The hazelnuts.
Yeah, I read about the hazelnuts.
Yes, the hazelnuts. So what we try to do is let's create fertile ground where these people can get together and we can become more of their lives than just something they listen to in the car or on their headphones or on the radio. Or it's got to be about more than a song. It's got to be about experiences and memories and connections. And so we started this thing called the Rock Boat, and we took half a boat and one other band first year and said, let's spend more time with these people than the 2-hour show and the meet and greet in this town and go to the next town. Let's spend a week on a boat with them. And it went so well that the next year we rounded up some funding and we chartered an entire cruise ship and brought more bands out with us. And now we're literally in our 19th year.
Wow. Where are you going this year?
This year is Key West, and I'm not sure, Mexico, I think. But it's like I said, but my focus on the boat is the bands. We bring in headliners. We've had guys like, Zach Brown Band, Collective Soul, Better Than Ezra, Matt Nathanson, Need to Breathe, all these different artists. And then we want you to find your next favorite band. We bring in these younger bands that become people's next favorite band. We were both of those. We were we are the headliner, and we've been the band that just wants to build a fan base. So it's incredible. At therockboat.com, check it out. And then we did one called the Hazelnut Hang in South Carolina, which is a weekend where we go and we take over this beach bar up in Isle of Palms that we started in, and we do B-sides and games with people and Q&A, and we hang out. You don't have to put your shoes on all weekend. And it's just about building relationships that make our fans our family. And
well, I hope that you've gained some fans today, because I want everybody to go to sisterhazel.com, be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. Go back and listen to Sister Hazel if you haven't heard them in a long time, and start reminiscing. Remember all the fun times, crazy times, and times that you don't want to talk about. Remember all of those.
It's a heck of a journey, that's for sure.
So let's talk about that off the air, about the next, because I want to make sure I can play this over and over and over again. So for those of you who are listening, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to talk about dates with Sister Hazel, with Ken Block of Sister Hazel, about where we can go, where we can see them, because I'm going to be there. Thank you so much, Ken Block, for being a part of the Lillian McDermott radio show and sharing your yellow brick road with us. So thank you for letting us go on your journey.
I appreciate you having me, and thanks. Anytime, give me a call.
And to you, my listening friends and my viewing friends, it's time to reconnect with your D's. What's your D's, and figure those out and cause it to work for your purpose and the good of others. And please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. That was good. Thank you so much. Okay. So now let's talk about, because I don't know when this is going to air.
That's why I didn't say it out loud.
Yeah, I'm so glad you wrote that. But you're going to be in Orlando September 1st?
September 1st, Orlando House of Blues. And I was thinking that because you're in that Brevard County area.
Yeah, no, I'll go. September 1st. I'm going to have to write this down.
Yeah, and people can always go to our website, check out dates, Facebook post stuff too. Join our little Instagram and Facebook and Twitter account. We have a lot of fun.
You got a new addition. I'll be joining you, and anything that you are doing that you want to come back on the show and maybe share, because the 5 questions of responsibility that you find at whenyounneedafriend.com, it's about personal responsibility, and it's tough. And I want to acknowledge you, Ken. You have taken, you could have walked away from this group because of ego. You could have said, the heck with you guys. I'm going to just live my life. You're just judging me. Yeah. And in judging you, you're really judging them for judging you. And you took responsibility.
Always a hard thing to own.
That's it. It is.
Others is the way you judge yourself.
That's right. You spot it, you got it, right? And so the first question of responsibility is, how did I create it? Good or bad or indifference, it should not bear any shame, blame, fault, or duty. It's just, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And then the next question is, what are the gifts and lessons? And you can, when you start seeing all the gifts and lessons that comes out of that, whatever terrible thing that happened to you, then you can move on to the next question, is what's going to be different. Now that I've learned how I created it and what the gifts and lessons are, what's going to be different? And then the last question, which is how you are living. And it answers my question, Ken, of how you've been able to live together with 25 and not live, I mean, work. I mean, you're a family, you're a band of brothers.
We're on a tour bus, 100-something days a year, 10 of us.
Yes.
Crew. And so we were living together.
So you're a band of brothers who have different personalities with a common goal, but you are making a difference. You're giving back what you've learned, and now you're setting it forward, you're paying it forward. And that's a great mixture, Ken. I mean, it's something that sometimes cannot be manufactured. It has to come from within. So good job.
I tell people sometimes that, what drugs and alcohol can be for people. I used to call it anti-Ken medication because I wanted to get me off of me. Mm-hmm. But what's a great way to do that? Was to do something for somebody else. And whether that's, it could be service work, or it could be just being there for somebody, stepping up when those opportunities arise. But I look at it as even just creating these events that allow people to get together and plug in. I get excited by providing fertile ground for connections to be made and to make a difference. And it gets me off of me. You know what I mean? Think about what would be fun for them. What would help this community grow and nurture and focus on things. And then these people within the Hazelnut community, you wouldn't believe what they do for each other. Yeah. It is so much bigger than us. It's, takes on a life of its own. We had one of our community members, one of our friends, donate a kidney to another person that is a hazelnut. And that's just one story. And it was an incredibly powerful story, but they're there for each other through all these different things. And just watching that is extremely gratifying. Look
at what you have been a part of creating. And
it's humbling, and it's the ripples.
Yeah.
Throw the rock.
See, I knew there was more to you guys than just music, because
it's a pretty face, right?
Yeah, you're more than a pretty face or someone that gets up there and woos all the girls. But it's and the men too, because people want to be you. It's you get up there and even though you may have been dealing with or not dealing with, it's amazing how the body knows that the mind is not dealing with something. Yeah. And once it's in sync, that synchronicity between the brain and the body, or the gut and the mind, is just so beautiful. Yeah. What you guys are able to create out there, no matter what, you guys stepped outside yourselves for a common goal, for your dream. And that dream has become so beautiful. And so I want to thank you. Is there anything you would like to add before I turn off the recording? Because this has been beyond what I thought the show would be like. So thank you for them so much.
I appreciate that. I always just want to encourage people, if you haven't heard the band before, or if it's been a while, just check out what we've been doing lately. And, we had our last 2 records were in the last couple of years we had, I love this because people go, what kind of music do you play? And I'm like, I don't know. We just play Florida music, Sister Hazel music. Rock, it's got a little bit of Southern rock, a little country, a little folk, a little stuff.
Everybody.
And for our last records, we were number 12 rock record, number 5 indie record, and number 2 country record.
Got it, yeah.
And so I'd love for people to just dive back in and just give the music a listen, and even more, come out to a show because it is so much fun. Not just us, it's that Hazelnut community of people that are out in the audience. And if you're looking for something to do that's uplifting, I tell everybody at our show, our goal when we get on stage every night is to make sure everybody leaves there feeling a little bit better than when they got there.
Well, mission accomplished, sir.
Excellent.
I really enjoyed watching you guys and being a part of it. And I'm going onto your website right now. It's what I'm doing. It's sisterhazel.com. Yeah. There is a button there. Once you get past the music, that's their latest album for Wind. You can see their tour, and you guys are going to be, you're pretty busy. Yeah.
West coming up, Seattle, Portland, all that.
Yes, you are going. Do you go on a tour bus and you just go on the tour?
The way we do it now, because we all have kids and families and all that, the bus lives in Nashville, and we fly home, and the first day of a run, fly out to wherever the bus is, stay on the bus for a few days, fly back home.
Very good. It's great that you've arrived to that
place.
To do that. Yes.
But, if we don't want to get disconnected from our families or our kids, and it's worth its weight in gold.
Wow. Okay. With that note, go to sisterhazel.com, check out their tour, check out their website, and become a fan all over again. A hazelnut. I am now a hazelnut, So I'm really excited about that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in September. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to air this show before then. That way people that are watching on YouTube can also go too. So thank you so much, Ken, and I look forward to our next conversation because I'm going to grab that tambourine. I know.
Do it.
Okay.
Thanks, Lillian.
And thank you to my listening friends. Viewing friends. I look forward to seeing you again. Okay.